Hi, welcome to the farm. I've got a new recipe that I want to try. It's actually something I'm trying brand new. I don't have a recipe for it. I'm actually making it up. So if you see this video, if it gets posted, then you'll know that it turned out all right. I've got a great recipe for fixing deer stew, and I think I've mentioned that before. I haven't done a video on it, but this recipe for deer stew works great with beef stew as well. And it actually, you roll the deer or the beef in flour, and then you brown it first in the skillet, and then you put it in the oven and bake it, and then you add the vegetables. And it makes a great gravy with the stew, or the deer or the beef, either one. It's just delicious. Well, I got to thinking the other night, I wonder how that would work with chicken. Maybe not put the vegetables in it, maybe just make a chicken and gravy dish. So that's what I'm going to try. Right here, you can't see in the video. Let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. You can see my cast iron Dutch oven here. I'm going to brown the chicken there, and then I'm going to put it in the oven and bake it. I've got chicken tenders that I've cut into, I washed it and then cut them in, some of them in thirds, some of them in fourths. So they're fairly small nugget size pieces. I've got salt and pepper on this. I'm going to put this in this bag that's got flour in it, and for this it's self-rising flour. So when I took this out of the water after I washed it, I put it on paper towels to dry, and so I'm going to put this in here so I can roll it in this flour. I'm very careful, of course, with chicken. You have to be careful with handling raw chicken. So I've touched it a little bit with this hand, so I'm very careful not to touch anything else with that. So I'm just going to do part of this to start with, just to show you in the video, and then I'll do the rest of it. So this hand is still clean, so I'm going to see, I think I'll use this. So roll this in this flour. I've got the olive oil in there. Let's see if that's hot. You got to take a drip of water, and all right, I guess you can hear that sizzling. So that's good and hot. This eye's off, so I can set this here. So let's take these chicken pieces that have been rolled in the flour and put them in the oil. And you can hear them begin to sizzle. I'm going to cook these probably about 5 minutes or so until they start to brown. I don't want them to get completely done in this because I'm going to bake them. After I get finished with this, then I will add probably a pint of chicken broth to this. And if you've seen my other videos, you know we can our own chicken broth, beef and chicken broth. So I'll add that to it and then bake it for about 2 hours on 275. Well, this is just going to be a very short before and after video pretty much, because there's not a whole lot to it. I'm just going to brown this chicken. I think I can make kind of one layer of it so it begins to brown. Since I'm making this recipe up, I'll have to decide if I'm going to take that out of the grease and add the next layer. I think I may do that. Probably should have waited about doing the video until I did this a second time, so I had it all down pat, maybe. But anyway. So there we go. We've got pretty much one layer. Yeah. Well, let's see. Just 2 more in here. Might as well go ahead and put them in. Alright. So I'll let that brown. And then I'll put the rest of the chicken in this broth, or excuse me, in this flour. And then brown it, and then put it in the oven, and then I'll come back and show you later how it turned out. So how's that? Okay, welcome back for part 2. I've got the chicken all brown. Let's see if I can turn this down. You can see it there. Oh yeah, nice and brown. It's been, I don't know, been cooking about 10 or 15 minutes between both of the batches that I did. So I've got the chicken all brown. I've got the oven preheated, and I decided to put it on 300 because I want to cook this a little quicker. I also decided that it would probably take a quart of chicken broth for this because there's a lot more chicken there than I realized. It's just something, I mean, it's just me and my husband here, but I can't cook just a little bit. I always cook a lot, and we'll have it for 2 or 3 days. It's summertime, it's gardening. I've been shelling peas today. The temperature says it's 97 outside, and it's 87 in here, so we don't have air conditioning, but we get along just fine. So I put this chicken broth over that. Okay, now then, I'm just going to put the lid on it. Just get those spread out there a little bit. Oh man, that looks good. I'm going to put this lid on it. And then I'm going to put it in the oven. You can't see the oven very well in this video, but anyway, I'm going to put it in the oven, let it cook for, about an hour, hour and a half, and then I'll come back and check it. And if it looks done, then I'll show you the rest of the video then. I think I'm just going to make some biscuits tonight, maybe fix a little mashed potatoes, and I've got homegrown tomatoes to go with that. So one of my favorite meals of all time is some kind of meat and gravy and tomatoes. So it looks like my favorite meal for tonight. So hope you've enjoyed this little bit, and we'll come back soon. I thought I'd throw in this little snippet of how I make buttermilk biscuits. This is no big deal biscuits. Once in a while, I have a really good video and recipe for something called angel biscuits that are just out of this world. But every once in a while, I get a hankering for just plain old biscuits, what my husband calls cat head biscuits. So that's what I'm going to make now to go with this chicken and gravy. I've got my my larger cast iron skillet here that I'm going to put them in. I've got a bowl to mix with. I'm going to take about 3 cups of self-rising flour. Okay. And to that, I'm going to cut up a stick of very cold butter. Now you can even use frozen butter if you want to grate it into this. That'll save you the cutting up step. But I'm just going to use this cold butter out of the refrigerator. As I was growing up, my mother, we had biscuits and gravy every morning. My mother made the biscuits. Daddy fried the meat, the sausage or the bacon, and then made the gravy. So we had biscuits and gravy every morning. And my mother, I've watched her make biscuits so many times. She, of course, used Crisco, and I have used Crisco to make biscuits too. This just that this particular time I'm going to use butter. But she kept her flour in just a huge bowl and would make a little indentation in the flour and measure out some flour, put it in the sifter, measure it out in that little hole, and then she would pour the buttermilk in and make the biscuits in that bowl. So what I'm going to do with this, now I have made biscuits where you make the dough up and then you roll it out and cut the biscuits off, but this is just a quick biscuit that I want for supper. It's not a fancy biscuit at all. You want to cut these pieces of butter up until they're just large, well, kind of like pea size, frozen peas. Just cut that into that. I was raised with that biscuit and gravy every morning for breakfast, and some kind of homemade jelly or jam to go with it. It was such a blessed time. In fact, it's kind of funny. Sometimes when I would go visit my grandmother and she would have canned biscuits, I thought, what a treat to have a canned biscuit. Didn't realize how wonderful it really was to have just regular homemade biscuits every morning. So many people would would love to have that. I usually make the biscuits in a larger, in my larger stainless steel bowl, but I've got peas in it. I blanched the peas and I've got them cooling now. I'll put them in the freezer here in a little while. So you can see that I've got that butter cut up into that. Good sized chunks. Since the weather is hot, you have to work kind of quick or the butter begins to melt. Okay, I believe that's good. Now then, take a fork and I'll pour some buttermilk in here. It takes about, 2/3 of a cup of buttermilk. As you can see, I'm real precise in that. I'll just begin stirring this around. If you have a mixer with a dough hook and you're familiar with that and used to using that, that works really well. I don't have a mixer with a dough hook, so I just use this fork. I've often referred to the fork as a poor man's dough hook. So just keep stirring it around and the dough begins to come together. Begins to make a shaggy ball. And I need just a tad more. Had some more flour down in the bottom of the bowl there that was not mixing in. There we go. Now, see, that's made a shaggy ball. Now, add just a little more flour to where I can work this, because I don't want to put it out on I don't want to get my dough board out. So I just put a little flour over it and just begin to work that flour into that. Actually just knead it in this bowl. And again, if you have a dough hook, a mixer with a dough hook, it would already do this step for you. Okay, just a little more. Okay, some flour missing in. All right, got the dough kind of in a ball here. Need a little flour on the bottom side. Just a little more so it'll stick together. Alright, now then. Got a good ball of dough here. Now, some flour on my hands. And I'll just pinch off a wad and just make a little ball and put it in my skillet. I'll just continue making these, putting them in the skillet, and then after they bake, I'll take a picture. I'm not sure I'll be able to video taking it out of the skillet because my husband's got time for him to come home from work. So I'll just take a picture of this and show you what the finished product looks like. Just a short little recap video finishing up here. I thought I was cooking a huge pot of chicken and gravy, but as you can see, we ate quite a bit of it. This bowl was nearly full. My husband decided he wanted some to go on his lunch tomorrow. The biscuits weren't beautiful, but they were pretty good, along with the mashed potatoes and the tomatoes, so it was a pretty good supper. But just to recap on the recipe, take boneless chicken tenderloins, or you could use breast pieces. Just cut it into chunks of the size that you want. Season them however you like. I just put salt and pepper and a little bit of powdered roasted garlic on it. Roll it in flour and fry it in for just about 5 minutes or so in a cast iron Dutch oven, or you could use an enamel Dutch oven. Then I think I put about a quarter cup of olive oil in that, or whatever type of oil you would like to use. Then after that, I added a quart of chicken broth, put the lid on it, and baked it for about an hour. So that's all there is to it. And it made a great dish, and this is one that I'll be adding to my list that I will do often, because it was quick, it was easy. Throw it in the oven, and then on to other projects. Now I'm on my way to the garden to pick beans, and so it's a never-ending job in the summertime. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. If you have questions about anything that I've done in this video, be sure and comment, or I'll put a link to my blog on that with other recipes and other things that we do here on the farm. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like and share and ring the bell and all that kind of stuff. So hope you have a great day.